You think the worst pain a man can feel is betrayal. But let me tell you the truth. Betrayal isn't just about what she did when you weren't looking. The real agony is when you hold her in your arms, kiss her lips, hear her say, "I love you." And deep inside, a quiet voice whispers that she already belongs to someone else. That pain isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It's silent. It's in the way her kiss feels hollow. It's in the way her touch doesn't reach your soul anymore. And the cruelest part? Most men ignore these signals. They gaslight themselves, saying it's stress or routine, or just the natural fate of passion over time. But here's the reality. Women rarely confess with words. They confess with actions, with subtle changes, with whispers in their habits, with cracks in the rhythm of who they used to be with you. And if you miss those signals, you don't just get betrayed by her, you betray yourself. That's why today I'm not here to feed you paranoia or turn you into a detective. I'm here to open your eyes, to hand you the clarity most men refuse to face until it's too late. Because once you learn to see the 8 silent signs of betrayal, you'll never look at her the same way again. You'll no longer beg for answers. You'll no longer chase explanations. You'll finally have the power to stand tall, knowing what's real and what's deception. This isn't about destroying her. This is about protecting you, your dignity, your boundaries, your manhood. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." But when it comes to betrayal, the opposite is true. The reality burns harder than anything your imagination could conjure, and pretending not to see it, lying to yourself, only deepens the wound. So, here's my challenge. As I walk you through these 8 signs, don't just listen for her. Listen for yourself. Ask, where have I ignored the truth in my own life? Where have I chosen blindness over clarity? Because at the end of the day, the real betrayal isn't hers. It's the betrayal of your own intuition. Welcome to Stoic Advice for Men. This is where we strip away illusions, face the harsh truths, and rebuild ourselves stronger, calmer, and unshakable, like the Stoics taught. Before we begin, I want you to do 2 things. 1. Hit subscribe and join this brotherhood of men choosing clarity over comfort. 2. Comment below the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this message travels, because betrayal speaks the same language no matter where you live. Now let's dive into the first sign, a silent signal most men feel but almost no one dares to face. Sign 1. The cold silence of her body. There's a silence every man knows, though few dare to admit it. It isn't the silence of words left unsaid. It's the silence of her body. You know it because you've felt it before. The weight of her touch when she truly wanted you. The warmth in her kiss when passion still lived between you. The unconscious way her body leaned into yours, seeking closeness without asking. But then, one day, it changes. You lean in to kiss her. She turns her face just slightly. You touch her shoulder in bed. She stiffens instead of melting. She says she's tired, but you know that isn't exhaustion. That's indifference. And here's the brutal truth. Tiredness recovers with sleep. Indifference never recovers. The example every man knows. Think of Daniel, a man who worked long hours to provide for his family. For years, his wife greeted him at the door with a smile, a hug, sometimes even playful teasing. But slowly, the rhythm shifted. She no longer reached for him, no longer touched him without prompting. And when he leaned in, she pulled away with excuses. Just tired, not in the mood. At first, Daniel convinced himself it was stress. He told himself, "She's busy, it's just life." But the reality was harsher. Her silence wasn't about exhaustion, it was about satisfaction found elsewhere. Why? This silence matters. Men fool themselves into thinking attraction dies of old age. It doesn't. Attraction dies when it moves to another source. If she used to pull you close after work but now rolls away, that's not routine. That's a signal. The Stoics warned us about this kind of blindness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." Most men do the opposite. Instead of facing the truth, they bury it under excuses. They'd rather cling to a comfortable lie than confront a painful reality. But here's the thing. Refusing to see doesn't protect you. It humiliates you. You become a quiet accomplice to your own betrayal. How to respond as a Stoic. When you feel that cold silence, don't beg. Don't push harder. Don't try to force warmth out of a body that has already burned itself out elsewhere. Instead, step back, observe, test the distance. If her desire still exists, she will eventually close the gap on her own. If her body has already given itself away, the silence will only deepen. This is where Stoicism becomes your shield. Epictetus taught, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Her silence doesn't destroy you. Your denial of it does. So don't judge this change as the end of your worth as a man. Judge it as reality speaking to you. Reality you must face with courage, not fear. A Stoic's perspective, imagine trying to light a fire that's already burned itself out. No matter how many matches you strike, the wood stays cold. That's what it feels like when her body has already been given elsewhere. And here's your choice. You can keep striking matches in desperation, watching your dignity burn away. Or you can put the matchbox down, face the ashes, and walk away with your self-respect intact. Because the silence of her body isn't just the absence of love, it's the presence of truth. And truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. Sign 2. The cleansing ritual, the scent of guilt. When betrayal enters, it rarely walks through the door reeking of sin. No, betrayal scrubs itself clean. It hides under lavender soap, under perfume, under showers that last just a little too long. You've probably seen it before but didn't want to admit it. She comes home too fresh, clothes changed for no reason, hair damp even though she was never one to shower twice a day, underwear swapped in a way that doesn't match the rest of her outfit. On the surface, it looks like self-care. In reality, it's a cover-up. This is what I call the erasing ritual. She's not just washing her body, she's washing her conscience. The story of Kevin. Kevin once told me how his girlfriend, after years of barely caring about freshening up after work, suddenly became obsessed with it. She would rush to the bathroom the moment she got home, lock the door, take long showers, and then reappear with that too perfect smile. Kevin thought, at least she's taking care of herself. But deep down, his gut told him another story. Later, he found the truth. Her freshness wasn't for him. It was to erase someone else's presence before he noticed. Why men miss this signal? Because we gaslight ourselves. We tell ourselves she just likes to feel clean, that maybe it's stress, or new habits, or self-improvement. But the Stoics warned us about this very trap. Seneca said, "How long will you delay to be wise? When you keep ignoring obvious changes, you're not being patient, you're being blind." The real issue isn't whether she showers, it's the shift. If she never cared before but suddenly guards her laundry like state secrets, that's not hygiene, that's guilt. The psychology behind it. Our bodies tell stories, skin carries smells, hair remembers, clothes absorb contact. And she knows it. That's why she scrubs, that's why she sprays, that's why she becomes obsessed with washing away the traces. But here's the irony. The harder she tries to erase, the louder it becomes. How a Stoic man responds, a weak man laughs it off. He convinces himself it's harmless. A Stoic man observes. He doesn't rage, he doesn't accuse. He sees the shift for what it is. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. And what you have to do is simple. Don't deny what your senses are already telling you. If the cleansing ritual repeats, if it always comes with that too sweet smile and guarded movements, you must face the truth. Not with anger, but with clarity. Because clarity is your shield, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And brother, if you've ever noticed this ritual before but ignored it, you're not alone. That's why this channel exists. To strip away denial and hand men the tools of clarity and strength. So if you haven't already, subscribe now to Stoic Advice for Men, because the next signs I'm about to reveal, they go even deeper, and they will change how you see her forever. Sign 3. The blame game. Unjustified irritation. When guilt grows too heavy for her to carry, she won't confess it. Instead, she transfers it. Suddenly, you're the problem. You walk through the door, and instead of a hello, you get a complaint. You load the dishwasher wrong. You're too quiet, you're too loud, you're too attentive, you're not attentive enough. Whatever you do, it's never enough. This irritation isn't random, it's strategy. By painting you as the villain, she avoids feeling like the betrayer. In her rewritten story, she didn't step outside the relationship because she wanted to. She did it because you were inattentive, controlling, boring, or cold. The story of Mark. Mark once told me how, after months of subtle distance, his wife's tone shifted overnight. Every word from his mouth sparked annoyance. If he forgot the groceries, he was irresponsible. If he remembered, he was trying too hard. It wasn't about groceries, it was about guilt. By attacking him, she relieved herself, temporarily, of her own shame. The trap most men fall into. You defend yourself. You explain. You argue. You try to fix it with logic. But guilt doesn't respond to logic. The more you defend, the more ammunition she gains. Before long, you're walking on eggshells in your own home, careful not to trigger the next outburst. This is how men become prisoners of someone else's conscience. The Stoic response. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The irritation itself isn't what breaks you, it's your reaction. If you play defense, you lose. If you take the bait, you become the villain she needs you to be. Instead, step out of the script. When she lashes out over something absurd, don't rise to the bait. Don't beg. Don't debate. Look her calmly in the eye and say, "You don't need to fight to justify what you've already decided." Then withdraw, not in weakness, but in strength. That one move collapses the false narrative. Because when you refuse to play the role she's written for you, her story has no stage left to stand on. Psychology of projection. Projection is one of the most powerful psychological shields. By accusing you, she avoids confronting herself. But projection cannot last forever. It cracks under the weight of reality. And the more you stand calm, detached, and unshaken, the faster that weight returns to her shoulders, where it belongs. A Stoic reminder. Seneca wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." When you argue with her projection, you suffer twice, once from the betrayal itself, and again from the false battles she drags you into. But when you stand still, when you refuse to wrestle in the mud, you suffer only once. Strength is not about yelling louder. Strength is about refusing to be baited into chaos. And that is what separates a man being drained from a man standing tall. Sign 4. The body doesn't lie. A woman can rehearse her excuses. She can polish her stories. She can mask her moods with a smile so convincing it could win an award. But there's one battlefield she cannot fully control: her body. And here's where most men betray themselves, not because they can't see, but because they refuse to look. The subtle shifts. If you've been with her long enough, you know her rhythm. You know her warmth. You know the natural way she responds to your touch, your presence, your energy. That's why when something shifts, you feel it, even if you try to deny it. Maybe she's unusually tense when she shouldn't be. Or strangely, she's overly relaxed in a way that doesn't fit. Maybe her responsiveness is exaggerated, as if she's trying too hard. Or it's absent altogether, like she's there physically, but her spirit has drifted. It can be subtle. It can be glaring. But it's never random. The story of Jason. Jason had been married for 8 years when he began to notice the shift. Before, when he wrapped his arms around her, her body leaned into his naturally. Now, she stiffened. When intimacy happened, her responses felt delayed, out of sync, as if her mind was replaying a different scene entirely. Jason brushed it off as stress, maybe hormones, maybe exhaustion, but the truth was already written in her body's silence. He just refused to read it. The cruel part. You don't need to be a doctor or a psychologist to notice. You only need to be honest. And honesty is what most men run from. They'd rather label it stress, or just a phase, then face the possibility that her body already carries another man's imprint. But here's the truth. Denying what your senses already picked up doesn't protect you. It humiliates you. A Stoic reflection. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But men twist this wisdom on themselves. Instead of applying it to her actions, they apply it inward, telling themselves lies to keep the peace. That's not Stoic strength. That's fear dressed as patience. A Stoic man doesn't run from what he sees. He faces it, even when it burns. How to respond with clarity. When something feels off, let yourself register it. Don't shove it down. Don't overcompensate with extra affection, more effort, or desperate attempts to win her back. Because here's the reality. You don't reignite desire by throwing effort at someone who's already detached. You reignite your power by recognizing the truth. A practical step. Instead of chasing her body, step back and observe. Don't accuse. Don't interrogate. Just notice. Watch for consistency. Because when the body speaks, it rarely speaks only once. Strength. Redefined. Strength isn't denial. Strength is clarity. Weak men pretend not to see. Strong men accept what they see and then act accordingly. Because once you admit her body no longer speaks the language of love, you stop wasting your energy trying to translate silence into passion. And here's the harsh lesson. When you sense the truth but stay quiet, you're not sparing her. You're betraying yourself. Sign 5. Excessive affection, the theater of guilt. Not every betrayal looks cold. Sometimes betrayal walks through the door with a smile, wrapped in kisses, and dripping with sudden tenderness. This is the cruelest kind of mask, because it plays directly on your hope. The false warmth. You've felt her slipping away. The silence of her body. The irritation. The distance. And then suddenly, she's holding your hand again. She's kissing your cheek. She's whispering, "I love you," with watery eyes. And your heart wants to believe. You think, she's coming back to me. But she isn't. She's trying to come back to herself. That affection isn't for you. It's for her conscience. It's the theater of guilt. The story of Michael. Michael once shared how, after weeks of coldness, his girlfriend suddenly transformed. She cooked him dinner, sent him sweet texts, even showed up at his office with lunch like she hadn't done in years. Michael thought it was a turning point. He thought love had returned. But weeks later, he discovered the truth. Every act of kindness was a performance. She wasn't loving him. She was soothing herself. The psychology of guilt. Here's how it works. After crossing the line, many women don't pull away. They pull closer. Not out of rediscovered desire, but out of a need to silence the guilt. So she kisses you. She hugs you. She pours affection over you like sugar on poison. And if you're not careful, you mistake it for love. The Stoic lens. Epictetus warned us, appearances are of 4 kinds. Things either are as they appear to be, or they neither are, nor appear to be, or they are, and do not appear to be, or they are not, and yet appear to be. What does this mean? It means not everything that looks like love is love, and not everything that feels like closeness is truly connection. A Stoic man tests appearances. He doesn't accept every embrace as truth. He asks, is this affection consistent? Or does it arrive only in waves after her unexplained absences? Does it feel alive or does it feel rehearsed? Your move. Don't reward guilty affection. Don't let her wipe her conscience on your shoulders. You don't need hugs born from betrayal. What you need is honesty, even if it's cold. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can say is, "I'd rather have your silence than your guilty embrace." That statement isn't for her, it's for you. It's your way of reclaiming your self-respect in the face of false tenderness. Because real love doesn't need theater, and guilty affection is just another mask. And brother, if this part hit you, if you've ever mistaken guilty affection for real love, then you know how dangerous illusions can be. That's why on Stoic Advice for Men, we break illusions and sharpen clarity. If you haven't yet, subscribe now and share this video with a man who needs to hear it. Because the next sign I'm about to reveal, her emotional absence in intimacy, is where betrayal cuts the deepest. Sign 6. Emotional absence in intimacy. There's a difference between a body beside you and a soul with you. And once you've felt that difference, you can never unfeel it. This is the stage where betrayal cuts the deepest, not because of what she does, but because of what she withholds. She gives you her body, but she no longer gives you herself. The hollow bed. Picture this. You're in bed together. Everything looks normal. She touches you, she moves, she even moans. But her eyes are empty. Her energy doesn't sync with yours. She's there physically, but her mind is far away, replaying a memory that doesn't involve you. That's not intimacy, that's theater. And theater, no matter how well performed, leaves you colder than silence. The story of David. David, a man who ignored the signs for months, once said to me, "I knew something was off, but I kept telling myself, at least she's still here with me." But she wasn't. She was already gone. What he mistook for presence was just participation. Her body was playing along, but her spirit had left the stage. Why men miss this signal? Because the performance feels better than the void. Men tell themselves she's stressed, she's tired, she's distracted. And yes, life can bring stress. But stress doesn't empty the eyes. Stress doesn't strip the soul out of touch. Only betrayal does. The harsh truth is this. When her soul has left, every touch becomes an act of self-deception. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste what remains of your life in speculation about others when it does not concern the common good." Applied here, it means, stop speculating. Stop inventing excuses for her absence. See it as it is. A Stoic man doesn't chase ghosts in the night. He faces reality in the daylight, the mistake of overcompensation. Most men respond by trying harder, more affection, more patience, more effort in bed, believing they can pull her soul back by force. But the harder you push, the further she drifts. Because her fire isn't missing, it's burning somewhere else. And every ounce of extra effort you give only teaches her one thing: she doesn't need to give anything back. The Stoic response. Stop confusing physical participation with emotional presence. When her soul has left, your role isn't to drag it back. It's to decide whether you'll keep lying in a bed that feels colder every night. A simple mental shift changes everything. The next time you sense that emptiness, pause and tell yourself the truth. I'm not here to beg for connection. I'm here to recognize reality. That recognition doesn't fix her absence, but it restores your dignity. Because staying with a woman who's no longer truly with you isn't love, it's humiliation. And if you let humiliation become your routine, the next sign will expose it in plain daylight. She won't just be absent in intimacy, she'll start being absent in time. Sign 7. The late returns. Empty excuses. When love is real, time bends to make space for it. A woman who desires you will find her way back, no matter how busy her schedule is. But when her fire has gone out, suddenly the clock turns against you. She's late again, and again. And every excuse feels thinner than the last. Her phone died. Work ran late. A friend needed her. One excuse after another, stacked like fragile cards ready to collapse. The story of Alex. Alex once told me about how his girlfriend's routine changed. At first, it was once or twice, coming home an hour later than usual. Then it became 3 or 4 nights a week. Always with explanations, always with rehearsed smiles. He wanted to believe her, so he did. Until one night, her late work meeting ended with a coworker's text accidentally flashing on her phone. It wasn't the lateness that betrayed him. It was the pattern he ignored. Why this sign hurts? Because lateness isn't just about lost minutes, it's about lost priority. Time is the clearest reflection of desire. When she stops giving it to you, it means she's already giving it somewhere else. The psychology of testing limits. Here's what most men don't realize. Lateness is a test. She's measuring how much you'll tolerate. Will you question it? Will you push back? Or will you swallow your doubts, pretending not to notice? Every time you let it slide, you train her. You teach her that your dignity is negotiable, the Stoic lens. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." freedom isn't just about chains or laws. It's about refusing to become a slave to someone else's excuses. When you allow repeated lateness without consequence, you surrender mastery over yourself. How a Stoic responds: don't interrogate. Don't demand a blow-by-blow report. That only drags you into a web of stories. Instead, state the truth simply. You weren't here, and that tells me everything I need to know. Then let silence do its work. Because silence in that moment is more powerful than any argument. And here's the truth. A woman who still chooses you will always come home. Maybe late once in a while, sure, but not as a habit. If she no longer returns to you, it's because she's already returning to someone else. Brother, if you've ever found yourself waiting late at night, checking the clock, swallowing excuses, you know how painful this sign is. That's why Stoic advice for men exists, to remind you that your time is sacred, your dignity non-negotiable. If you haven't already, subscribe now and share this video with a man who needs to wake up before it's too late. Because the final sign I'm about to reveal, the collapse of her story, is where every lie eventually crumbles. Sign 8, the collapse of her story. Cracks in the mask. Stories are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, they can be polished, they can be repeated until they almost sound real. But when pressure builds, cracks appear. And when a woman has crossed the line, her story eventually collapses under its own contradictions. The signs of collapse. One night it's a coworker who needed help. The next time it's a last-minute errand. Details change. Timelines shift. Explanations don't quite add up. Her words run fast, too fast. Her tone doesn't match the calm she pretends to project. And her eyes can no longer hold yours. They dart, they flicker, they fall away. That isn't stress. That's deception, struggling to keep its balance. The story of Daniel. Daniel noticed it when his wife's excuses began to overlap. One week, she said she was helping her sister. Later, she forgot and claimed she had been working late that same night. Daniel didn't need a smoking gun. The contradictions themselves were proof enough, because the truth doesn't always arrive in a single dramatic reveal. It leaks piece by piece until the story can no longer stand. The trap of proof. Here's the mistake most men make. They demand airtight evidence. They want texts, photos, undeniable proof. But betrayal rarely comes with a receipt. It comes in inconsistencies. It comes in patterns. It comes in the collapse of a story that no longer holds weight. And the more you chase evidence, the more you turn yourself into a detective in your own home. That's not strength. That's slow self-destruction. The Stoic response. Marcus Aurelius warned, if it is not true, don't say it. If it is not right, don't do it. A collapsing story is proof enough that truth and rightness have already been abandoned. Your move isn't to yell for confessions. Your move isn't to beg for clarity. Your move is to say calmly, I don't believe you, and I don't need to anymore. That statement isn't an accusation. It's a boundary. And boundaries are the foundation of masculine dignity. The final lesson. When her story collapses, the truth is no longer the issue. The only issue left is your decision. Will you keep lying to yourself? Or will you stand as the man you know you are? Because after all 8 signs, the real question isn't whether she betrayed you. It's whether you will betray yourself by staying blind. You've now seen the 8 signs, 8 signals that reveal more than words ever could. Let's recap. 1. The cold silence of her body. 2. The cleansing ritual, the scent of guilt. 3. The blame game, her irritation without cause. 4. The body doesn't lie. 5. Excessive affection, the theater of guilt. 6. Emotional absence in intimacy. 7. The late returns, empty excuses. 8. The collapse of her story. Each one is painful, but together, they tell a truth louder than any confession. And here's the Stoic reminder. This was never about turning you into a paranoid detective. It was about opening your eyes. Because the harshest betrayal isn't what she does in secret. It's what you allow yourself to ignore in plain sight. The goal isn't to catch her red-handed. The goal is to reclaim your dignity, to stop begging for love while handing over your self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." Most men run from the truth. But truth never harms. It only heals. What harms is the lie you tell yourself every night you refuse to see. So here's my challenge to you. Think of one area in your life where you've ignored your own instincts. Maybe it's her sudden coldness. Maybe it's her irritation. Maybe it's the contradictions in her stories. This time, don't bury it. Don't excuse it. Face it. Decide. Either repair it with clarity and boundaries, or walk away with dignity. Because love may be a gift, but self-respect is non-negotiable. And a Stoic man never trades dignity for comfort. Brothers, this is Stoic advice for men. If this message struck you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another man who needs to hear it. Hit subscribe, tap like, and in the comments below tell me, have you ever seen one of these signs in your own life? How did you handle it? Your story might be the one that saves another man from betraying himself. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of taking back what was always yours. Your clarity, your dignity, and your freedom to live as the man you were meant to be.